Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Friday, April 3rd, or April 3rd, May 3rd. It's the end of the week, guys. Cut some slack here. So, today we're going to be doing pretty much a road trip. We got a delivery of the riding lawnmower and the push mower, and then we're headed one direction to do a startup at their location. And then from there, we're going to their mother-in-law's location to do a startup there. We did a service on both of them in the fall, but for some reason they can't get them started this spring. So that's part of today's day of work. But I thought we'd talk also about the process of how you go about. It doesn't matter whether you're a seasoned pro or you're a newbie. You have to develop a process on how you would tackle work. So stay with us. Alright, so welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know that. And this is the weekday, Friday. We do a weekday video Monday through Friday called the weekday, and then usually a few educational ones that are in a repair or process, something that could possibly help you do something better, easier, and safer. And then on the weekends, I kind of go off on a tangent where we start talking about how to better oneself, But to bring you up to speed, we were talking yesterday morning about, when you have a customer say, just get it running. All right. So here's the deal with that. It was a push mower and a rider. We picked up the rider, and she asked if we could take the push mower because it was a no start. So we said yeah. And we get it back to the shop, and we check, and the air filter on the lawnmower is in terrible condition. The decks, the blades are shot. It hasn't. The fuel filter, you can see crud and everything inside the fuel filter. And the spark plugs were original. So I went ahead and I ordered the blades. I ordered an air filter because we didn't have either one of those in stock. I went ahead and did a fuel filter, changed the oil because it's blacker than black. New plugs. And then when I got to the push mower, I wanted to do a compression check on it. So I tried getting the plug out, and it was resistance. I had Claude come over, and I said, you try this. This shouldn't be coming out this hard. So he grabbed the wrench, and he started coming. He said, no, there's too much resistance. So he got the plug out, and what had happened is somebody had cross-threaded that plug into the hole. And they didn't even have the plug all the way in, because they couldn't get it to turn any farther because it's cross-threaded. And the blade was upside down, so that it wasn't cutting in the first place. But I wanted to do a compression check. If it tested fine for compression. And when I was sitting there doing up the invoice yesterday morning, I was making notes of this on the actual bill that I give to the customer and a bill that I keep in my folders. What we found, why we replaced what we replaced, and then we gave her a call to make a time, because we had never dealt with this customer before. We wanted to make sure that she would be there to pay before we unloaded. We've had customers in the past that say, I'll get you a check. And a year later, you're still trying to track them down. Yeah, you get some winners. But Claude gave her a call, told her what the bill was, and she's like, well, what the heck did you do to him? Because I told Claude, I said, we need to be honest with our customers. And with that being cross-threaded, we put that plug back in to where they had it. It was running. We were going to try to tap it, but we couldn't find the right tap because the hole had been oblonged. So Claude told her, look, your push mower, the spark plug is not in correctly. It may last 2 years, it may last a day mowing, because somebody had cross-threaded that plug into the hole. And her response was, well, it must be they did that from the factory new. Claude says, what about the blade being upside down? It's a brand new blade. Why is it in upside down? Well, then it came out, well, maybe the neighbor kid had helped her try to get her lawnmowers going. If you want to save money, don't have the neighbor's kid or one of your family members do the work for you. It will always cost you in the end if they're a half-assed at what they do. So, I mean, she was kind of mystified. I'll be honest with you. The bill for pickup and drop-off and all the work that was done, labor, materials, etc., was $258. Tax and all. And that's not bad for a rider and a push. But come to find out, she had not serviced that rider since she bought it brand new. Because that's the other thing, guys. If you have a John Deere Sabre, you have an MTD. You do not have a John Deere machine. She had a MTD Sabre. And those units need to have oil changes on a regular basis and to be kept in top condition. We talked the other day about longevity and how you value your equipment, and how years ago everybody valued it differently, more, because it's expensive. But it's expensive now, so why buy something and then trash it? If you're going to buy something and trash it like that, hire the neighbor kid to use his own lawnmower and mow your yard if you can get him to work, right? So this kind of brings us to the main theme of today's video. Is I did a video yesterday and I got to finish editing it this morning, and I'll get it up this morning with this video here. But it talks about developing a process on how you tackle something. And I don't care what piece of equipment it is. If it's in your lawn and garden arsenal, whether it's a chainsaw, weed eater, rototiller, walk behind trimmer, riding lawnmower, push mower, you name it. If it's gas powered, you have to have a process that you check every time. And if you aren't checking it in the order that it should be checked, then you could be wasting a lot of your time. And you could be chasing your tail for hours. And worse yet, you could become a parts replacer. Yes, you heard me right, a parts replacer. You know, I've seen a few other YouTube videos, and you know my pet peeve. Very rarely do you see anybody start out doing compression check. They're checking everything else, and then the last thing they do is they come back and they check compression. The misnomer that if you could spray some carburetor cleaner, I know people say starting fluid, but use carburetor cleaner. It doesn't burn as hot as starting fluid, and you won't smoke your rings and piston from too much heat. But A lot of times, if you have low compression, but it's still in that 65 to 90 range, it will start if you give it a shot carb cleaner. But it won't start on its own. Once it's running, it's got enough PSI that's pulling enough fuel to keep it running. It's not running great. It's not running up to where it should be for RPMs and stuff, but it will run. And I've had so many people that instead of just taking the plug out, doing a compression check before you even did anything and see where you're at. It's part of the process. You need to start there. Because if you're not starting there, what are you doing everything else for? When in the end, if that compression isn't where it needs to be to start on its own and run on its own, if you're a homeowner, you're wasting your time. If you're a shop owner, you're billing for time that you shouldn't be, because had you done a compression check in the first place, you wouldn't have all these billable hours and parts assigned to that customer on a machine that had, let's say, 60 pounds of compression to start with. And a lot of times I've seen where in the spring, like if you had a piece of equipment sitting for a period of time in storage and you bring it out and you turn the fuel back on, let the bowl fill, a lot of times just a quick shot of carb cleaner will get it fired up so that it gets all the fuel back into the system and everything else. But from that point on, it should start on its own. A low compression will be a hard start. No matter, can you get it running? Yes, but it's going to be cranking your ass off. If it's in that, 70, 80 PSI. Now, I'm not saying that you can't take carburetor cleaner and that's how you start that unit every time to get one more season out of it. No, it might work. But as a shop, I can't recommend that to a customer. I have to be honest with them, and this is what I found. And if I'm doing compression first and I'm not getting good compression where I want it to be, and that's 90 or above, but I love the 120 or above, and it's got overhead valves, that's going to be your step 2, right? Because you can adjust the valves and bring the compression up sometimes. They do get out of adjustment and they get wore a little bit. So if I've checked the compression, it was low on compression, I went to the valves, adjusted the valves, and that brought the compression up to 120, 130. It solved my problems with compression. Now I'm going to go on to fire. Does it have fire? If I've got 120, 130 to start with, I can go right on to does it have fire? And then in the video today, you'll see all the different steps that I look at to try to localize my issue of why I don't have fire. Just because you don't have fire coming off that coil does not mean you have a bad coil. It also could mean that one of your safety switches in the system is grounding the coil, having it be a no fire, a no spark. And there's a wire on that coil. If you take the plastic shroud off the top, there's a small wire that you could unplug and try that. And if everything starts up and runs, then you know it's not the coil, it's something from there back. But it's a process. And it's a process that you have to do every time you approach a piece of equipment if you're having problems with it. I mean, if you've got a chainsaw and it's starting fine and doing what it's supposed to be doing, no, you don't need to do a compression check on it. It's fine. It's just part of your arsenal, right? It's when you're having problems with hard start or it's bogging or something is not right with it, that we need to start looking at the procedure of what we need to do first, second, third, fourth, and down the line. Now, I've had customers that would go out and buy carburetors thinking that it was a carburetor because they could get it to fire up on carb cleaner, but after tearing it all apart, putting it all back together again, and they're still in the same boat. Well, it's because they didn't have the compression to pull the fuel up on two-stroke. It's developing a plan of attack, and that plan of attack should not vary. You can start up here, check compression, and then have arrows. If it has compression, go here. If it doesn't have compression, go here, and then go here, and then back over to fire once you have compression, or the other way, junk it, because it's not worth fixing. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there still today that are parts replacers that will buy a coil because they don't have fire on the plug. Well, because one of your safety switches are faulty. So you get the brand new coil in from eBay, Amazon, or your local dealer, OEM to aftermarket Chinese knockoffs, and you're still in the same predicament because you still have no fire. So now you have a fit and you want to tell that dealer or your online markets, wherever you're, eBay or Amazon, the coil's bad. The coil is not freaking bad. It's your process. Had you unplugged it, you would realize that your original coil was perfectly fine. So now you're dealing with the time it took to get that coil in, the new coil in. Take the old one off, put the new one on, and you have the same results. You see what I'm getting at? It's all about time and money. In my shop, we have a process. And we've developed that process as a way to save our customers money and the shop money, if that makes any sense. All right, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. But it's like anything in life when it comes to getting things done. There's a process, right? And if you jump ahead, a lot of times it wastes you time and costs you money that you didn't need to have to spend. And I equate that a lot of times to building a new house, because I built a number of houses. If you don't have a solid foundation, then everything you do after that is at risk. It could be wasted time. You could get the walls and the roof up, and if the foundation that it's sitting on is not done correctly, done right, then the house will never be right. And it could risk of collapsing in and wasting all that time and money on materials, time, getting the walls, roof, everything. Because you skipped a step. You just set them on cinder blocks instead of a nice pad. So on that note, you guys have a great Friday, and we'll see you here bright and early Monday morning for the weekday. I'll have a couple other videos out over the weekend. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but we'll figure out something. But on that note, just think about it. What kind of process works best for you in your shop? I'd like to hear about it. So, catch you on the next video.